entire ongoing project is supposed to be as big and bombastic and extra and ridiculous as I feel like going. So, of course, I'm going to cut out the extra 47. I'm having mild regrets about doing the reveal with the thematics over the air, because now I have to sort out all of those feathers from all of the offcuts in the floor in front of me. Actually, on the topic of all of these offcut pieces, for starters, my entire floor is so covered in them, this angle does not do it justice. Let me show you what it looks like right now.
I know I keep going live, but
I'm gonna try and
I just want to keep going live. I want to go live again. I want to keep going live.
It does make a great like packaging filler. Like for example, if you're posting or shipping something, or if you're moving house and packing up boxes. I've even used it before as a lightweight filler for cosplay props. Last time I glued a bunch of together, which was for these wings here.
Okay.
That was on my lounge room floor. And
we're working on.
really likes
I'm kind of designing a new character. A new D&D character.
My main rookie error last time was doing
and this one's the big bad.
Hot glue on its own is not toxic. This foam, from what I've now researched, is made of polyethylene foam, which is not toxic unless heated, which is exactly what you're doing when you're gluing it with
his name is it's hard to pronounce, but his name is Fablex Blood Marrow.
Also, this wasn't entirely intentional, but I've just realized how quickly I framed this shot for my cursed erosion bird head just sitting on a shelf behind that cardboard box. Okay, 1,000 feathers to go.
There.
Let's get into it. My garage has even
I had to lower you guys down a little bit.
And since I am doing 8 wings, I'm going to be gluing for several days. It's just better safe than sorry. I have a thin sheet glued down underneath my template just so that I can protect it from dust. And if the hot glue happens to melt through this layer of foam, it's going to hit the layer of foam below instead of the table. I found last time that most glues just don't work well.
I finished 2 characters today. Finished drawing 2 characters today. But my favorite one has to be this one.
And first row is pretty important.
It have to be this one.
Determines the shape of the whole wing. I am going to flip this one upside down, so now we can see
my favorite one
on this
that
side,
I finished
was
this one. And she's she's a Kingu changeling druid necromancer. And that's basically what she looks like.
I can kind of start the second row around here to cover this stuff, and that way I'm
now I got one character left in their main part in their party that I gotta draw, and it's Athena Mysteria. And the other one,
I'm going to put my other template from this wing pair down over the top of it, and I'm going to use that first wing as essentially a guide
this one that I drew today.
The second wing can sort of have the feathers in the same position. The only catch here is to be especially careful that you're not applying so much glue that it bleeds onto the wing below. This way, both wings in a pair have a similar silhouette
barbarian
to each other,
blood
so it
hunter.
feels symmetrical. From here, it is pretty smooth sailing as we start to build up these feathers. I've also noticed this foam is a little bit elastic, so you can pull and manipulate it slightly to create some curves. That way,
the one that I just showed you,
that is going to be quite useful for this one because I'm not going to be painting these feathers with any shading or highlights.
This one?
Before we reach the top row, I'm going to turn this over and get my frame attached. Not sure if this is the best way to do it, but I put glue
because she was the one I drew today, just drew today. And then tomorrow I get to draw her.
The wing frame curves away from the table.
And I'm just
way easier to
alright.
the rest
That's
on the
okay,
other
Night.
side. That way, as I'm gluing, gravity just kind of helps show exactly
Okay,
where
Miss
the wing
Reviewer.
is going to sit against the wing frame, and you can just glue it down accordingly.
Make
With
yourself
the wing frame
known.
done, I can bring those feathers all the way up to the top now, and you might notice that I've cut a lot of these feathers a little bit thinner as I'm going, so I did end up using a lot more on these wings. I guess my gut instinct just said to go finer and smaller towards the top here. And let's be honest, guys, if I didn't use the spare feathers for this, I would have found an excuse to use them elsewhere on the wings just so I could reach that 1,000. With the front filled with feathers and feeling fabulous, I'm going to start filling out the back with feathers as well. Going just a little bit more sparse in terms of detail because I really just needed to be like covering those raw edges rather than super detailed. 2 wings down, 6 to go. I'm going to pull it there because we are in the middle of Melbourne summer, which means it is going to get boiling hot outside. So I'm really only going to be in the garage for a couple hours in the morning before it becomes like literally a greenhouse. So I'll leave it there and hopefully finish off the rest during the week. We had the weirdest weather for the few days I was doing this. I'd be going out early morning in like late leggings and a hoodie and shivering, and within 1 hour I would be sweating buckets changed to a singlet and shorts. That is the infamous Melbourne weather for you guys. Or maybe it's just my inability to acclimatize. So,
I
after
don't have anything
about
in
4
poison
days worth of
in
glowing feathers, I have 8 wings.
neon
I know I'm only
green.
holding 4 of them, but I can't fit 8 in my hands, even with a
I
dramatic
could get
effect.
something
But what I
in
can
like
do
silver,
is put all of these into
like
a
lavender.
mannequin harness so we can kind of get an idea of what this is finally going to look like.
I'm not gonna be playing music because it copyrights the music.
Judge Chris Taylor has fought tirelessly for crime victims, especially women. She's been an advocate for domestic violence
Something ain't right.
and fought for victims' access to emergency contraception. Call Judge Taylor and say thank you for standing up for Wisconsin women.
Return the stolen butter papers.
Ooh, what? Since this character is a paladin, I'm hoping to get 12. That's basically what he is.
With the bold styling of the Mazda CX-30.
Awake up.
It was born with wings, but psoriasis swooped in to clip them. Now, with Bimzelix, I'm back to clearer skin.
Only Bimzelix targets and blocks IL-17A plus F to calm inflammation.
Most people got 100% clear skin, some after the first dose.
Serious side effects like suicidal thoughts or behavior, infections, and low ability to fight them, liver problems, and inflammatory bowel disease occur. Tell your doctor if these happen or worsen, or fevers, chills, muscle aches, or cough occur, or you've had a vaccine or plan to. Before starting to check for infections, tuberculosis, and liver problems.
Start to get back to clearer skin with Bimzelix.
Ask your dermatologist about Bimzelix.
That is a problem for future Charlotte. Guys, tell me this isn't the coolest thing you have ever seen me make. Look at this! Oh my god, it's not even done! It's not that I didn't think I could do it, or that it looks different from how I thought it would look. It looks exactly like I imagined in my head. Also, sorry for the blue hands, I've been dyeing fabric. Anyway, I'm just still a little bit flabbergasted at how good this looks. Alright, reining in. For starters, I'm gonna try this on temporarily outside to make sure that the weight is something I can handle, and then that's gonna be it until the grand reveal. I can't actually wear this inside because right now I'm a fair bit taller than this mannequin, and the top wings are literally brushing the ceiling, so I literally cannot wear this inside. Another tiny change, I am tweaking some of these exposed pipe areas, particularly on the top wings, just because they were kind of crisscrossing over right at the top, so I'm just spreading them out a tiny bit. Now, embellishments. We are going to notch each of the feathers. So each feather is basically just going to get like a couple of notches cut out of it. And I try and do maybe like 2 to 3 each feather and vary a little bit where they're placed. And it's just enough to kind of like suggest the texture of a feather without having to do like a gazillion of these on each one. Actually, that might not technically count as embellishment because you're like subtracting from the costume rather than putting stuff on. Totally niche bit of advice for you guys, but the more of these notches you put into your feathers, the more shaggy they'll look. So if you want like a disheveled or more evil looking character, you might want to go really crazy with these. If you want to go for like a sleeker appearance, then just go pretty lenient.
I know how to spell
I figured
charisma.
out a way to stop these wings from swinging around once they're in place. So I'm going to
Apparently
drill
I
a
do not
hole
know how to
straight
spell
through
charisma.
both PVC pipes while holding it in position. This little plug is usually used with like wood, so I'm just going to push it into that hole, and that is it, guys. I'm going to do this with every single one of these because even if they're not moving around right now, it'll stop them moving around later on if they loosen up, and it'll stop the wind catching them and blowing them off place. Well, that was actually really easy. These are clearly not
Okay, now I need
designed to
to
go
pick. Now I
on
need
off
to roll
this
for
thing. So if
3.
these start to wear out after
There's
a few wears,
3.
I can swap them over for wood dowels, which I actually happen to have some in the garage that also
6.
fit. So that's plan B
Insight.
if these start to break.
It doesn't have
So
what
where these wings are
wisdom.
sitting now is
Mhm.
kind of the final position, and I'm pretty
Dex.
happy with this.
No,
Like,
it
a
doesn't
lot
have
of them
any
are straight
dexterity.
forwards to give that illusion of them being
bigger. There's some depth. There's some of them like
Intimidation.
layered slightly forward, some of them slightly back. There's a lot more concentration
Let's still
towards the bottom here
tell
as opposed to these top
himself
two
that
wings.
he
That is okay with me because there's going to be a
that he
lot going
intimidates
on my
people, but he
shoulders
won't.
and also the head piece, so they can stay a little bit more sparse up there. Moving on, do you guys remember in the last Angel video that I had like just a little bit of this
Oh.
fabric left and I was real salty because Spotlight had discontinued it? Well, mad props to Adele who saw that and actually had like a decent amount left of this exact fabric that I was so happy to get my hands on. Adele, you are amazing. This is kind of the exact thing that I wanted to sort of go along the very top of the wing and kind of cover the awkward spot where the feathers finish.
After days slow cooking in my garage, I'm gonna switch back to fabric glue because any chance I have to not use the hot glue in the garage, I'm gonna take it. Before I glue these edges down, they're all getting cut into some jagged shapes, and I'm gonna run a lighter over the edges here. That is going to like melt and singe the edges so they don't fray. This really only works on synthetic fabrics, and I am wearing my respirator and trying to keep that flame away from the foam of the feathers as much as possible. Luckily, I also kept a lot of my scraps from when I used this fabric on the corset too, so I can cut out even more of these weird jagged shapes and cinch those edges off. Which means I can now extend that sort of gold, drippy, veiny, flamey texture, whatever you want to call it, even further down the wings.
So it's looking a little awkward right now, but trust the process with me, guys. Or don't. I, as per usual, don't entirely know what I'm doing either. I had a big brain moment with these pegs. Each of them are now tied to the screw at the bottom here of each of these, so that essentially when I'm like assembling them or disassembling them, I can plug them in, I can take them out, and I'm never gonna lose them. Genius. Next step. Remember how I made those 5
Remember, he
hand-painted
doesn't have
eyeballs
any
in Angel's
dexterity.
corset? I made 32 of them.
Deception.
So that's 32 pieces of
Oh,
white
if you're
craft
an
rope heated
evil-
up and
if
stretched
you're-
over a potion
if
bottle to
you're evil,
maintain
you
that
have
slightly
to
spherical shape.
know
And
how
I'm
to
getting
use
pretty practice at painting these up at this
deception.
stage. We're going for like a darker rim on the outside, a lighter base color, and then stripes of both lighter and darker colors in towards the middle. Finishing off with an ultra matte black beady pupil and 5 or 6 coats of a gloss varnish to keep them looking nice and shiny.
So with 32 of these, if I maths correctly, that's number 4 each week. I might
With
like vary it a little bit and put some of them on the back if
intelligence
it looks better.
version.
I'm just gonna work it out as I go along.
If you're
I don't know about you
paladin,
guys,
you
but
need
I am
to
getting
have
deja vu doing all of these
Mm.
eyes. Well, I'm going to wrap these up the
Religion.
same way I did last time with the same fabric, that sort of honey gold velvet. And somehow these all look way more creepy with the eyelids than without. I guess it's the uncanny valley.
I'm so glad that I did all of these different proportions because you get some great expressions here. Like over here, we've got this nice friendly, hello friend, be not afraid. And then you come over here and you've got like this really suspicious looking squid. Like, I don't know friend, should you be afraid? What are you afraid of? And then you get, oh, be afraid. Be very afraid.
You know, I've started to notice I rely way more on voiceover towards the end of a project, and I guess that's just because I get so excited for the finish that I just keep barreling on instead of like pausing to explain stuff. And as you can tell, I did exactly the same thing with this one.
I feel like that
literally
this
just
stream
pinned
isn't
these in
very
place
exciting.
with some dress pins, just so I can make sure I'm happy with the layout of everything. Everything's spread out pretty evenly.
But later
like,
on,
there's no
I think I
variation of
might get
colour on each
into
wing,
a
and none of
character.
them are, like, too
I just
close
want to
together
finish
or too spread out
finish
or
this
too close
character
towards the
that I'm
edge of the
working
wings
on,
where it's
that
gonna weigh
I'm
them
working
down.
on
Once I was
designing.
happy with placement, I can take off each wing one by one and just glue down all of the eyes. Seeing the wings like 95% done at this stage, honestly, I was just chuffed. Chuffed is the word I would use.
Alright, so pretty happy with the placement of the eyes overall. So I think I ended up having 30 on there. I've got 2 left over, and I think I'm going to leave it at 30 because between 30 eyes, and if I manage to attach exactly 1,000 feathers, and I'm sticking with these really nice whole numbers, which feels very appropriate for a costume that's so holy. I'll see myself out. There's one more embellishment that I want to add, which is hopefully going to help blend some of the gold elements together. You might have noticed as I was gluing the eyes that the hot glue that I was using had like a gold tint to it, and that is because I'm using metallic gold hot glue sticks. I think people use these as kind of like a fast way to do like wax seals on letters. I got them to try out something like this, which is essentially using it to create these sort of visible, gooky gold veins, which I think ties in really nicely to the elements of like body horror and drippy molten gold that it had in the base costume. It's also almost identical in color to this sort of honey gold velvet that I've used for the eyelids, and that is saying a lot because I've complained last video about how difficult it is to try and match any kind of gold to any other gold. I'm gonna try and be a little bit lenient with this stuff and not go crazy because I want the eyes and the big white feathers to be the focal point, and going ham on the hot glue is gonna add a lot of weight, and since there's 8 wings, that is gonna add up. Anywho, this means applying hot glue to that polyethylene there. This is hot glue on polyethylene foam. Polyethylene. Hot glue on polyethylene. It's not hard when I'm not trying to say the full sentence. This is a garage job because, again, hot glue on polyethylene foam.
And my aim here is to continue the lines from the corners of the eyes down onto the wing and up onto the rest of that gold satin, somewhere between veins and molten gold. And I'm also going to apply some of this one more heavily under some of the eyelids, kind of like these eyes are also weeping gold. In the base costume, I did this beading. Sorry, there's no way I'm going to start beading 32 eyeballs.
Good morning, my loves. So last night I finished off all of the veins. That sounds weird. I finished up all the hot glue stuff. I also had a few handfuls of those smaller feathers left over, and I know I cut up some extras for the wings, but I've been keeping track of how many I've been using because I, for some reason, really fixated on making sure these wings have exactly 1,000 feathers. So the remaining feathers, I just kind of like snuck into the wings at certain places to fill some gaps. Rather than show you the updated wings on the mannequin, we're just gonna go straight ahead into a fancy reveal because for now, these wings are done. So let's get the base costume on and head outside because I literally can't fit in the house with the wings on.
Alright, it's now pretty much dusk. I decided to wait till now to film because when the sun is like pretty low like that, I should get some really nice golden glow on the wings. It also means once the sun goes just below the horizon, I should get some nice even lighting as well. What I didn't consider is that there is no one around to help me at this time of day, so I have to put all this on by myself. So let's hope that I can figure that out like a strong independent woman. I am going to forgo some of the extra accessories and makeup just because it's really just about testing out the wings today. The final reveal with the headpiece, I'll just go all in with everything. But for now, let's worry about this. I'm going to get into it now before I lose that light. Now in hindsight, I had to like semi-disassemble this to get it through the door, but I could have dragged my mannequin out here too. It would have been way easier to put these all on, especially considering it's not so easy to sit down in a corset covered in gold feathers and eyes. But hey, I've never been one for doing things the easiest and most convenient way, let's be honest. Honestly, even just having like a fold out table so I didn't have to keep kneeling down to pick things up because this was even harder as well once I had the wings on because the bottom wings practically brush along the grass. But that is ultimately why we do these test runs, so that we can figure things out that need changing for next time. Like figuring out some way of keeping these damn pauldrons on. Despite taking way too long to put this on, I managed to catch some of the sun and it was so worth it. Look at this. Oh my gosh. Okay, couple of small tweaks that I'm going to have to make for next time. Top wings need to be further away from my head because anytime I turn my head or move slightly, it's hitting the headpiece and is constantly like pushing it off place. The other solution is make a much smaller headpiece. I don't think I want to do that. The other issue is that my pauldrons keep falling off, so the Velcro isn't really doing enough. I'm just going to have to figure out a couple of extra ways to secure them on there. I don't want to sew them onto the straps themselves because I still want to be able to wear the dress with the pauldrons and not the wings. As you can see, we are having a very light, mild breeze, which is apparently a problem for this costume. Apart from occasionally throwing my balance, it's really not too bad. So I guess just no high heels in this costume, which is fine. There's enough going on without me being more uncomfortable. Aside from that, everything is amazing. Like, everything moves, it's really secure. There's even still like a little bit of movement in the wings, like a little bit of that bounce just to make it feel dynamic without them like getting tangled up against each other. And like, I haven't even seen the footage up close yet because I'm just looking in the tiny little viewfinder on the camera and it looks fantastic. There's supposed to be stronger winds coming through, so I'm gonna call it there, go inside, have some dinner, rest my shoulders and make sure I don't get blown away in the process. Good night. Okay, I actually did stick in this a little bit longer just because I was having so much fun wearing it. It's pretty comfy and I just want to do some more like silly poses and running around and dancing in it like an excited toddler. Purely for the purpose of testing out durability, of course. I am so grateful that I have a backyard big enough to do this as well because I'm just not sure if I would have the guts to go to like a local park to film this sort of thing. I've done plenty of photo shoots in public, but like this is a whole other level.
So, I did say that you can't wear these inside, but it turns out you can disassemble the wings from the frame, drag the mannequin into your office, and then reassemble 6 out of the 8 wings to make for a precarious background that stretches from one side of the room to the other so that your outro looks especially cool. You guys, I had so much fun making these. Like, genuinely, I had the time of my life. And I hope it shows in the video as well. I'm really happy with how these turned out. That said, I do have like a gut feeling that I'm going to end up changing some things. There's something not quite there that I can't put my finger on. But I am going to hold off on doing any tweaks or changes until I have the final part of this costume done, which is upgrading the headpiece. In case you missed it last video, the one I was wearing for the reveal is like a 5-year-old headpiece, and like the first thing I ever made that was Bigly the Accurate Angel inspired. I hope you guys can be patient for the headpiece video because I am determined to have a headpiece with blinking and moving eyes. And I am going to need to figure out electronics and servos for that because in the past I've used puppetry, but I really don't want to be like puppeting a bunch of eyes on my head while I'm like semi-blind and balancing 8 wings on the back. As I mentioned before, electronics are hard for me, so it's gonna take me a while. Now I want to make a request from you guys that you tell me in the comments your best or worst puns involving eyes, wings, or angels, and maybe I'll do a segment in the next Angel video where I read out my faves. To my Aussies, I am going to be at the Game Expo, which is probably happening really soon after I post.
Hey, Clover.
So if you're around, please come and say hi. I love meeting you guys. I'm so excited to be a guest and a judge for the cosplay competition. A huge thank you, as always, to my ultimate supporters on
Okay, so
Artemis,
next course.
Michael, Mix Randy, Rakishan,
So
Residual
next
Images,
course.
Ron
Okay.
Festive, Tamara, Verilyn, and Yuri. You guys are amazing. I appreciate the heck out of you. Also, big thank you to these other amazing patrons who are on screen now. If you want to be as cool and funny and smart as these guys, come and join us over on Patreon. I post previews, work in progress, and exclusive videos you cannot find anywhere else. And joining is the best way to support me so I can keep making things as ridiculous as this. But just by liking, commenting, subscribing, sharing it with your boss, you are helping me immensely. So thank you
Sharing
guys
it
so
with
much
your
for
boss,
watching,
what the-
and I will see you in the next video.
Oh my
Bye.
god. Oh, they do get 3, but... I'm good. I'm working on this character, this D&D character of mine. Humpty, Humpty, Humpty.
Versatility and value with the universal 20-volt battery system that powers every tool.
I just
Discover why so many Milwaukee and DeWalt users are making the switch to Hercules. Hercules, as good as the best for a whole lot less. Only at Harbor Freight.
And his name is Sablex Blood Marrow. This one's the big bad that my other 6 characters are gonna be constantly battling.
Now, I may have made owls and bird creatures my entire personality as an adult, but when I was a little kid, I was obsessed with fairies.
Oh my
I was
god.
definitely one of those kids.
Oh my god, Clover! Telling me about your ducks now.
I read that
Gotta keep those
so
ducks out.
much, and I distinctly, vividly remember staring into all of the illustrations and just getting lost in them. Like, the way everything looks like it's sparkling or glistening, everything just looks so alive. Before I get carried away waxing poetic and getting lost in nostalgia, hello, I'm Miss Twisted.
Go ahead.
Cosplay and makeup and
Tell
little
them.
experiments. While I do love
Tell the
myself,
chat
I'm
how many ducks you have.
inspired mostly by artwork,
What are we gonna do with you, Clover?
Right? They just popped up randomly on my Instagram one day with this fantastic illustration of like a fake.
What are we gonna do with you, Clover?
This depiction that kind of reminded me of the illustrations of Shirley Barber, but with like an edge of something more dangerous, more cunning, and very more insecty. How his wings and creations are literally growing out of his face. I've also dabbled in like creating different face things throughout the years with the experimenting with makeup, but nothing quite like this. And I kind of want to bump it up to a level of detail I haven't really used before. What I do have is a couple of different.
I don't have my
supplies.
ducks
It's
around
mostly
me,
going to be paper.
but there are 6 under my TV.
Then start doing all
and 4
these bits, which is basically
on my lamp.
just sheets of vinyl that have that kind of iridescent texture to them.
I believe I have
used some
another
things like
duck
this before
somewhere.
for a Carnival Row inspired look, and it was really, really fun. So I may up doing something with this that feels similar. I do want to keep two like green and pink and magentas as the main colors, just because I really want this to be super, super bright colored, but still a little bit threatening, like a poisonous insect. Venomous insect? Both. The aim here is definitely beautiful and alluring and vivid, but could definitely kill you. I'm going to skip forwards for a moment because I really want to show these off. But I did the paper
Because she
wings
hasn't
with
been
watercolor
on
paints.
here.
I'm like, look at how
I
lovely these turned
I
out.
can't
Like,
remember
the colours are
how
so vibrant.
how long it's been since I had Nick's Quartz
So you wanna know how I learned
hanging
how
out
to do this?
when I hung out with Nick's Quartz
That's
last.
right, today's video is sponsored by Skillshare. Skillshare is a massive online learning community. You will
Live.
find so many different lessons and pathways to explore.
I know I hung out with her a few days ago, but I haven't done a live stream with Nick's Quartz
productivity, graphic design, and so much more. Skillshare classes are
in a
led by
while.
industry pros with real experience. And an active community of members to cheer you on. People like Yasmina Creates, whose lessons in watercolor I use to try and pick up the skills to create these things, including how to use masking fluid. I loved her hands-on approach, sort of encouraging play and experiment through her lessons rather than like rigid sets of rules. There are learning paths where lessons are kind of curated so you can build up multiple individual lessons into like an overarching skill. I've been looking at the learning path, your creative business, build it, brand it, launch it. Because while I have somehow
Build it, brand it, launch it.
into my business, up until now I've just kind of been making it up as we go along. And I've already discovered some new strategies and skills that I can use. If you want to turn your passion into a side
Yeah, I've been
hustle
watching a
or
lot
get
of
excited,
furry
there's so many
content,
options
if
to
you could
explore.
tell because of the
first
group chat.
500 people who use my link will get 1 month
From the
free
group
trial
chat.
of Skillshare. And I will put that link in the description below. While you guys are checking that out, I'm going to rewind a little bit to bring you on the journey of figuring out what the heck is up with watercolors. Alright guys, we're just going to jump straight into it. I have got some office paper here, which I have sandwiched 2 pieces together for each of these, just to make them a little bit stronger. And I'm just going to roughly sketch out like some butterfly wing shapes here. I've decided to paint the wings in watercolor, just because it kind of taps into that like dreamy, lush landscape that I remember seeing as a kid in all of these children's books. This bit stuff I'm putting on the painting is masking fluid. Basically, it's going to keep that area of the page white while I'm painting with watercolor.
Oh god, now my head's big.
Behind like a nice crisp white line. Now, I'm actually not too worried about how this section's going to turn out because these wings are actually just like a practice round. Because I haven't used watercolor since I was a child, I kind of just want to play with it a little bit, get a feel for the colors and the textures and how everything blends together before I start to use it on my real wings. I will warn you guys, if you want to try this for yourself and you haven't used it before, this stuff smells real bad, which is exactly what clued me into the fact that it's basically like a liquid latex. That's why I'm kind of using a silicone tool to apply this instead of like a brush, because it would completely destroy any brush you use this on. Alright, now for the fun part. If only I'd left the actual masking fluid to dry completely, because a lot of this I ended up like pulling it up because I was way too impatient. You can kind of see
Girl,
there's still
he's
like
the
a
best.
veg bits on there that are still wet. And I thought
I
I'd be smart
know
enough to just
that.
paint over when the masking fluid isn't fully
I don't know what that.
paint over when the masking fluid isn't fully
I don't know what
dried.
happened.
So I don't masking fluid before the paint's dried. So I just need to chill the
It
heck
just-
out when I do the actual things. But
it-
apart from that,
My
like,
screen was just
this is
white
looking
and not even coming back to my live. That was weird.
Cut out, ready for painting. I'm kind of going with like lunar moth
That was
inspiration
weird.
in terms of the colors and shapes. And you'll see later
I
on,
was
of course,
going
that I've added
to
some ink in there.
pick
I
out-
kinda wanted to have like
get
a Venus flytrap kind
the-
of inspiration too. Each of my wing pieces had this
armor
little eye
piece
design, much like a
on
moth
there,
or a butterfly
and then
would
it just
have like
boom.
fake eyes on their wings. Except I purposely made a lot of mine more of like an eclipse shape, like to mimic human eyes. Not that my impromptu project where I'm just trying to recapture some of my early childhood nostalgia really needs some deep lore, but I'm kind of just imagining that like
That was
fake
weird.
creatures would be trying to confuse humans as opposed to other animals. Anyway, that's my totally unnecessary justification for why all my wings have got human-shaped eyes. Okay, so I've had a little bit of a play around with these now with the wings, and like obviously these look scrappy. Like I haven't finished taking off the fluid with these. but that looks great. Funnily enough, the reason why that looks great is because I waited until the fluid dried before I painted it, and then I waited for the paint to dry fully before I took off the masking fluid. So I have these really lovely crisp lines, which I don't have on any of these because I was impatient as heck. So I've learned my lesson. All my little wings and things are now fully masked, and I'm gonna put these outside. No, it's windy outside. I'm gonna lose these. I'm gonna put these near a window when I let them dry. I'm gonna go find a video game. It's probably gonna be Baldur's Gate. Who am I kidding? Listen, guys, I know we're only like a few minutes into this video, and I've already mentioned childhood nostalgia so many times, but goddamn, painting with watercolors was so much fun. I just find something really satisfying about the way they blend together, and the color just goes on so thick, like straight from the start. It just feels nice, you know? So take home message here. Maybe you should go and do an activity you really liked as a child. Like, this brought me like a lot of serotonin, just zen, good vibes. Anyway, you can see I've kind of learned from my trials to like layer up several different colors and not be afraid of like the colors not blending all together that well, because they do dry a little bit more subtle anyway. So I kind of had some fun layering up some like lime green with this darker forest green as well to create some texture, and dabbing off the excess like you see here. It's a shame that all of the colors still didn't dry as vivid as I'd liked, and the camera really didn't do it justice either, but they still look fantastic even here. Okay, so it is literally the next day, so I know for sure that these are 100% dry. So now comes what I believe is the fun part. Now, I've done a couple of these just off camera to test them out. Essentially, all of the masking fluid now come off, and you can like use a silicone tool and kind of rub at it the same way as you would like, you know, with a scratch lotto ticket, I guess. But I'm gonna just like use my hand like this. I found this really effective because you can kind of get the edge. You can see that coming off here. And then, if you're lucky, and you've got to be careful because you don't want to destroy that paper, kind of just pull, and this is so freaking satisfying. Like, this is great. It reminds me of like when you get like new electronics and you pull the little screen protector off at the start. It's just like, oh yeah, that's the good stuff. Ah, look at how nice that looks. That is looking fantastic. Like, that is so smooth and clean. Oh, let's get this eye. I don't know what I'm gonna do with the eyes. I think I'm gonna paint them. Yes, look at that. Amazing. It has bled a little bit. I'm not too worried about that. I think it's kind of a cool effect. It doesn't have to be perfect. It's supposed to be like dreamy or whimsical. That's my excuse anyway. One of the reasons it's bleeding a bit is because, of course, I had to use like office paper, not watercolor paper. Like, watercolor is not designed for this kind of paper. So I'm just glad that it worked overall, but I wonder like if I should have just gone straight through a proper watercolor paper, and maybe that would have saved some of the bleeding, but I'm not really that worried about it. Like, look at how good this looks. Last big stretch here. Can I get it all in one go? Ah, that looks so good. Yeah, nice. Definitely a little bit of bleeding up here. I don't care, that looks great. I love this. There's all these little tiny ones that I can't quite just get like by pulling off, so I'm just gonna kind of rub at them, and it seems to do the job. With all the fun of peeling off that masking fluid out of the way, the last touch-up was just filling in a lot of these eyes with a sort of pinky color and a couple little pink lines on some of the other
I
white
just put the
sections,
budgeting app
just
in base
because I felt
44.
like it. I
Good.
got debated painting in fully realistic eyes, but for starters, I don't think I'm that good of a painter. But also, I kind of wanted to keep that more symbolic feeling, so I just kind of went with all of these little moon shapes to kind of represent like pupils, or just like the reflections of eyes. It seems to be a pretty common shape on a lot of butterfly wings anyway. And hey, full transparency, I did cheat a little bit and went back over.
Oh my god, today was Pinocchio Day.
Just to brighten them up a tiny bit, just because I did have so much bleeding on some of these wings. Okay, so these are my finished wings in the watercolor, which look absolutely fantastic, if I do say so myself. The only one that's a little bit dodgy is this one. I've tried to paint over a little bit with the white. I'm not sure if I'm going to keep this wing. I may just have to like throw these ones out or like cut them a little bit short, but I spilled a little bit of that purple color. Like, you can see I smudged some on myself and then just accidentally handled this one. So yeah, that's not too bad though. Like, all of these, I think there's going to be plenty to cover my face and whatnot. It actually starts to look a little bit more vibrant against like the white table here. So I'm wondering whether I want to kind of tap into that and do a fair bit of my makeup in a stark white to bring out the colors of these wings. But tons and tons of like small pieces that I can layer up and just hopefully have like my whole face just covered in wings. So yeah, okay, so I found something really, really special. I got this on eBay just a few days ago because someone was selling it secondhand. This is the pop I was talking about. It's a shitty version of it, like it's small and like, you know, big bag, and they foods that look absolutely delicious. This is a great example because everything here looks glistening and vivid, which is exactly the kind of thing that I wanted to get with this project. Hey, it's Future Charlotte here because I completely forgot to talk about what I actually did to the vinyl before this next section. So basically, I've got this sort of cool glossy holographic vinyl, and what I've tried before is creating like a frosted vinyl, and all I've done is like spray it with a matte varnish to create like a frosted effect instead of this high gloss. That's it, that's what I wanted to mention. So just thought something I want to try. Because this is that frosty thing going on, but all of these are going to look really flat because they're paper and sheets of things. I want to try putting some UV resin on this and see if we can make like some water droplet style things, right? I don't know if this is going to work. We're going to find out together. I just got a thought in my head like how cool the texture would be if it works. Oh, if this dries as cool as right now, it's very promising. Let me see if I can hold this up to the camera without freaking out. Can you see what I mean? Because this is UV resin, so it's safe for me to use inside. I like this.
Switch to TurboTax. File free by 228. 100% free. And this is taxes.
Get your brightest smile for 12 months with just one kit of pressed 3D white strips. This smile for a year? Yes, this smile for a whole year. Oh. Get your brightest smile with pressed 3D white strips.
And then he said, devour you. I need to choose a dad. Ratings are happening on
Epoxy resin, you should still use it in a ventilated space.
Here
I
comes
have
it.
a absolutely gigantic
Okay, so we get a
window in my office, so I have
woman.
a wide open view of this
Okay.
whole section. Honestly, in hindsight, I probably should have
Look
worn
at
my
a
respirator
woman
as well, just for the extra
character
safety. It really
who is
can't hurt. Also,
her
safety
crimson eyes
gloves. Do not
glint
let this stuff
with
touch your
unspoken
skin.
malice and dark
Probably like
intent.
safety glasses or
Okay.
goggles too. Let's just chalk this all up to do as I say, not as I do. But at least I did not let my skin touch any of this stuff, so I was okay. You can definitely get a feel for how the light plays off these different textures just by moving this around. When I took it outside to cure in the sun, once that was finished, this looks
Is it
absolutely
gone? No.
fantastic. Look at this beautiful textures. This is so shiny. It just makes my brain happy because this worked really well. Like, look at this. That looks insane. I'm hoping it
A
still looks
short
good when I cut it out and try and use them.
No,
That's very
not
promising.
there.
I like that. I'm even
Up
thinking
here.
when I painted up the paper wings, I could use
Ooh,
that
this
resin
is
and,
her
like,
back, her description.
on it.
Her crimson eyes glint with unspoken malice and dark intent.
Oh, I'm so
A chill
excited for
follows
this.
her wherever she steps,
Very
as
promising.
if the air itself fears her.
I did end up trying
Ooh,
the
okay.
resin to
Okay, Sablex. Okay.
I
So
think
now
they
we need a
looked
background, a
really
backstory.
picked up in camera, but I liked how they looked in person. My initial thoughts
Now we need a
was,
backstory for this character, for her.
right,
For
that uses
Sablex.
all these different pieces
Sablex.
together. I actually think that's gonna
Blood
be too
marrow.
much. So
Okay.
I kind of decided while I
Going
was doing
under a
this
blood moon.
to separate this into two
That could tie
very,
into
very
her
very
last name.
makes sense, right? Because I think that these and these are kind of two separate vibes. So I'm gonna do a fairy queen that
No.
has all of these beautiful iridescent pieces and
No!
kind of can't see in the camera, but like all of my little tiny freckles and
Oh my
the
fuck,
iridescent
my
pieces
D&D
that
guy.
I
My
made.
D
And
friend.
then all of these are another. So I'm gonna lay these out so I can kind of visualize it before we get started.
Number one to start her,
Okay, now we finally have our king and our queen. So the king is looking great. You can see these dewdrops coming up. They're really subtle, so they might catch the light every so often, but they don't take away overall from the look. Over here we have all our parts from our queen, and you can see, like I've got the torch on my camera at the moment, but there is going to be some fantastic listening effects. I didn't mean to, but this one's almost giving me like mermaidy vibes, and I'm kind of okay with that. Like that looks great. I'm loving that. Right, I'm gonna do a quick test run where I like attach a bunch of these to my face, just so I know kind of where everything's gonna sit. Because I think once I start getting
Her
like,
crimson
all the
eyes
makeup done for
glint
real, if I
with
start
unspoken
sticking this
malice
to
and
my
dark
face I
intent.
don't like where the position
A
is,
chill
I've already
follows
kind of
her
laid
wherever
out
she
the bits
steps,
of glue in the
as
wrong
if the
place.
air
I'll be
itself
cutting into
fears
these.
her.
I'll be able to see what we
Okay,
have
so
in
this is a
context. So I
dark
wanna get a
elf.
Now, the
A
shapes that
dark
you want and the positioning of everything
elf
before I start
paladin.
doing it, like, for realsies. Now, the two wings that
Necromancer.
go straight on the sides of my face, I actually had some thread sewn through the top of it. You can barely
Ooh,
see it.
okay.
That's just to take some of that weight,
This
just so it
character
doesn't sag down on my
had
face.
just
For the rest of these, I
elevated
just had
herself
some spirit gum on the edges,
more
and that was
into
all it
crime.
needed to stick to
No.
my face. Just remember, if you're using spirit gum for yourself, to let it get a little bit tacky before you stick it onto your face. They will stick so much better. For positioning, I wanted to have some like close to the center of my face and some further back, just to kind of create like some dimension and depth.
It's just occurred to me how stupid it was to do the trial run of like putting all these things on. Now I've got them all perfect, and I'm like, oh well, why don't I just do the makeup now? I've already got the things stuck to my face. But like, for starters, I'm wearing this. Really love that. I wanted
Ooh, her backstory.
my shoulders with makeup.
Born under a blood moon, marked by prophecy, they would wield death. That they would wield death. Trained by mentor, only to be cast aside, fueling hatred. Okay. Physical disabilities. Okay, three physical disabilities. 3 mental. 12.
Okay, guys, we are
Missing
back.
teeth
I
and
put my
fangs.
contact lenses
Missing
in.
teeth.
I have
Fangs.
meant to change my top. I had to re-glue some of these, but like not all of them, which was great. I have had a gigantic mug of tea, which is like 50% made. So now we're ready to get into it. Let's go. I am gonna start with just getting like white on my face everywhere. That's gonna be my base. I'm using Veron Cloud White Light. It's one of my favorite products to use for white because it's super opaque, as you can see. And the original Veron Cloud White has a really awful texture. It's so tacky. This is a little better. It's still not perfect. I still haven't found a product called white face paint that I still really love. But this is the closest I've gotten. So I'm just gonna fill in all the space just around the wings. I didn't really want to do this before putting on the wings anyway because the spirit gum will not stick to this makeup. So you kind of want to have it on bare skin first.
In today's episode of Do As I Say, Not As I Do, make sure you put a priming layer on before you start applying face paint. It will make it last much longer and tends to be a bit smoother when it's finished too. You can see I switched to like a smaller brush here just to get all those in-between bits from the petals. Now, if you've been following my work for a while, you know that my favorite thing with makeup is just to over-contour the heck out of my chin to give me a jawline that I wish I had. And today will be no exception. So it's just a plain matte deep green eyeshadow that I'm using to contour around my jawline here. I realized I wanted something a little bit more sturdy around the sides of my neck just because I didn't really want that eyeshadow rubbing off on my white top. So this color here is actually a green foundation from Sunset Makeup. If you're a cosplayer of any sort and you haven't gotten onto this, I really recommend it. It literally has the consistency of foundation, so it is just a really useful product. So I'm kind of using it as a base for all the areas I'm going to contour, like my nose and my cheekbones. And I get a lot of creases around my eyes, so I actually use this around my eyes. It stayed a little bit better than just a standard eyeshadow and kind of worked like an eye primer. I'm adding in a black eyeliner pencil around my waterline and my lips, but I decided against adding any more like fake eyelashes or cat's eyeliner just because I do want this one to feel a little bit more masculine. And then I'm going back in with that eyeshadow just to blend out all those hard edges I created around my contouring and my eyes and my cheekbones. I decided to put a little bit of pink eyeshadow under my cheeks here just because I realized like I wanted the pink of the wings to come onto the face a little bit as well. And final touches, I did want to bring those white
With why I
lines
don't have
from the
music
wings
going
onto the face, 'cause I think that would
with
really
lyrics
tie everything in.
because I don't want it
first tried with
copyrighted.
this, like, white
YouTube
eyeliner that I also
copyrights
put from
my
Sunset Makeup, but
lives
to be honest, it's not
because
great.
they don't like it whenever I'm listening to pop music with lyrics.
So for most of this, I ended up going back to my Veron Clown White
I don't
Light
know
and
if
just
it's
using
not
like
gonna
a
like
thin
me
fake brush
listening
apply it.
to D&D ambiance, but
I don't want to go too crazy with any fake eyelashes or like cat's eye wing liner because I do want
yeah.
to keep it feeling a little bit masculine. So that's kind of my thoughts, and that's kind of why I went for a little bit more detail on the chin as well, because it kind of very
Mania.
loosely suggests
Okay.
beard or facial hair, right? This makes me incredibly happy. I like how this turned out. The dewdrops are pretty much like negligible. You can't see them at all, but they don't detract from it, which is, I guess, the most important. I don't why this makes me so happy and why I just suddenly had the need to make some sort of fairy creation, like channeling my childhood nostalgia. But I'm so glad I did because like I'm so happy with how this turned out. Like this looks creepy, it looks beautiful. I feel like a Venus flytrap about to like trap some mortal prey. I'm super into it. I hope you really liked it as well. We're gonna start on the next one. Okay, it's the next day. I still got a bit of a tinge on my neck from the previous one with the face paint. I don't think it's gonna bother me too much. What I am realizing is I'm not gonna be able to just get away with sticking some spirit gum on the back of this and slapping it on my face. Partly because I think the vinyl is too smooth at the back. The spirit gum is not gonna stick super well to this. The other thing is, this is much heavier than the paper pieces, so it's just going to start like sagging down my face wherever I stick it. So I'm going to have to mount these on some sort of like headband and have it like attached to that at the back, so it still kind of sits flush against the face here, but it's supported at the back here. The smaller pieces, I could probably just stick these straight on my face. That'll be fine. So I need to figure out something for these. So I honestly thought that the vinyl would not take well to the spirit gum. So what I have done for each of my pieces is I actually sanded the back of them just with a really coarse sandpaper to give it a bit of a rough surface so the spirit gum can stick to it. And that's also worked really well because this is like the largest piece and it's sticking really, really well. I thought I was going to have to like use a headband or something like to hold the weight of it, but like that is not going anywhere. I'm thoroughly impressed, so we can get going. Okay, these are the contact lenses I decided to go with. They just kind of looked cool. I wanted to go with the color that wasn't like pink or green like we focused on yesterday. And like my little iridescent pieces have got like a lot of different options kind of coming through. So I thought these would kind of work with it. And then of course I do have the wig. I'm not too fussed about exactly how the wig is sitting because like it's really there to cover any parts of my like bright orangey kind of hair that's going to stick through between the fins. But that should be enough for my base. I'm going to get stuck sticking stuff to my face. I think I want this one like quite close into my face. Like this one isn't going to be quite as far out as my other one. So for foundation, I'm literally just going in with my like winter foundation, which is just the color of my skin right now, but a little bit paler. I was going to go with an unnatural skin color all over, but I kind of feel like with all the little bits I'm about to stick on, they're going to do all the heavy lifting in terms of like focal point, I guess. And then I can do some contouring with an eyeshadow color, which is going to at least suggest an unnatural skin tone, which I think between the two of them will be enough to kind of give the feel that I want. Wow, looking back at this footage, it really does look like I'm just putting white face paint on, but that is literally my shade of skin in winter. I am just the color of mayonnaise, guys. Once again, I curse my
That's the color of mayonnaise.
Sharp jawline I should have had, and so cheek this sun purple eyeshadow.
Okay,
I'm going to use this same purple eyeshadow around my cheekbones, behind each of the fins as well, to kind of give a bit of shading, and just in all of those spots that I would usually do contour.
So now I'm gonna turn
my nose, under my eyebrows, under my cheekbones. Okay, my necklace took a little bit of wrangling to get on, but I think that is sitting nicely. I think the only thing left is to stick on all the little bits that I have to just cover the rest of the space. So we've got a lot of gluing to do. Gotta get some fake eyelashes happening. I never get it so perfect the first two eyebrows. This is where I'm just gonna start layering up pieces and see how it looks. This is looking pretty promising. I think I need to muck around with the lighting a little bit to really make this pop, because I think I need some things like shining into it from the front rather than just plain white lights. Luckily, that didn't break entirely. It just kind of came off at the connector point in the middle. Not to toot my own horn too much here, but I love how this looks. This turned out really nice. I love how the light bounces off the holographic vinyl in different ways. I like how it looks kind of cold, like a drowned person almost, like it's very much cold colors. And not in like a welcoming way either. Like it definitely feels a little bit intimidating. I'm pretty happy with this. I think it worked all together really, really well. I'm interested to see what this looks like in the sunlight too, so I might try and take it outside and just see what the effect is.
I'm Abraham Lincoln and I approve this
I love the variation in color you get from the vinyl both inside with the lighting and outside in the sun. I will say though, once it's outside, the makeup on the face is more subtle and it kind of looks more like I'm just a human going to a festival rather than like a creepy fey mermaid creature. But overall, I'm really happy with both of these. The fey king definitely has that insecty element or like a plant, and the fey queen with all those iridescent pieces feels like a mermaid that's just coming out of the ocean. My aim for this project was to capture that lush, dreamy nostalgia element of fairies, the ones I've read about in books like Rainbow Magic, and combine that with my modern understanding of fae as mysterious spirits that might be mischievous or worse, dangerous. Hey guys, thank you so much for watching. I really hope you enjoyed this one. I was a little bit self-indulgent, like getting into my own nostalgia, but I know a lot of you guys grew up with like fairies and dragons and all that sort of thing too. So I hope it was so interesting for you as well. Please let me know in the comments below which one was your favorite. Massive thank you again to Skillshare for sponsoring this one. I also want to thank my patrons. You guys are absolutely amazing, especially my ultimate supporters. Artemis, Dakota, Rakashin, Residual Images, Tamara, and Yuri. I would also like to thank these amazing patrons whose names are appearing on screen now. Patreon is actually the best way that you can support me to keep making ridiculous projects like this. So if you want to support my work, or you want to see previews, or work in progress pictures, or other bits and pieces, and sometimes entirely exclusive tutorials and projects, please come and join us. I will put the link to my Patreon in the description below. Thank you guys again so much, and I will see you in the next video. Bye! Hey, so I'm just popping on one more time from the future, in case you're wondering about like the audio and visual differences. It's a different camera. Anyway, the point is, I was so salty about this version, I went and looked to try and find the original one that I had as a kid. And I found someone in Brisbane who was selling this one on eBay. This is the original 1996 version. This is the one that was so precious to me. And like, you can see the color difference. Like, it's so much more lush and like alive. It doesn't have that yellowy tinge to everything. And like, my favorite page actually looks like it's supposed to, like those beautiful vivid colors. Really hard to hold onto the camera and still show my face. But you get the idea, right? Like, it's so much more vivid and dreamy. Anyway, I just want to share with you my little moment of joy from actually getting my hands on this. That gave me so much happiness. Anyway, bye guys.
We are trying really hard to get Ulysses peanut butter cups, but there is only so much we can do here. You're gonna have to meet us halfway. Well, the whole way, actually. Don't stop there. Try caramel makeup.
Introducing the new Knit Sew Shop at Michael's. Discover hundreds of yarn schemes in a range of colors and textures. Only at Michael's.
And a little tiny sheet metal screw, I think these on the called. I'm poking this through from the other side of the backpack, through those layers, hopefully through this placemat. Aha, gotcha. I've got a couple of these little tiny washers. I'm just going to chuck one in there before I strip another route.
Also, quick correction, these are bolts and not screws that I'm using. I continuously get these two mixed up.
I would have to think
I'm back.
actually have.
The ads and experts.
I did use hinges. I had them tilted down a little bit here so that the wings were attached here, which meant that gravity kind of helped the wings always stay like out to the side as like the default position. But the only problem is that because they were hitched so much, gravity made it that I couldn't really pull them back with like any kind of spring or anything. They're only going to do that like in the wind or if I'm going through a doorway. So I'm going to try and do this almost entirely like parallel to the top.
Oh god.
Oh no. Oh no. Oh no. Not good. No shot! That's great.
Ow. Jump scare.
Your discretion is advised. Hobby back from popcorn. Oh, he's dead. No, get it down.
should like change this to
No matter how scary, intense, frustrating, diabolical, hilarious, or how many times I backflip, my viewers are going to make fun of the situation and me by playing right here above my head.
every time I backflip.
Good job sounds just like that. Let's hop in here. What could go wrong?
Oh God.
New game, full set. What could go wrong? If you're here on Twitch, grab a snack. It's going to be a while.
A lot. 6. Vampire Rose. Okay, that works better. That works better for Sabo.
Oh no. It's all about to go wrong. How creepy is this?
Oh, Beef dead.
You know, pace yourself, Shaq, 'cause guess what? This is gonna be a long week. Let's see how word out chat gets by like, you'll go through like halfway through this video, it's just gonna be dead silence, because chat's gonna be just like memed out.
I want Mary Dino what?
Oh my god. This is so like disturbing. Right off the bat.